Welcome back to the channel. What we got going on today is not something I'm going to build, but something I'm going to fix. We have my friend's John Deere LA105 tractor, and the problem is the steering. The steering stripped out, and what goes bad are these gears down in the front. So we're going to be switching those out today. And like I said, this isn't really showcasing anything I built except for this hoist that I built for my engine lift. I just came up with this little contraption here, and this is easy to store. I know a lot of people, they have the tractor jacks that they actually wheel the front wheels up on, and then they'll lift it up in the air. This works pretty well. I just made it with a tube and some chain. It's pretty safe. I'm still going to put jack stands underneath it. That's another recommendation regardless of what you use. As far as for anything you use for lifting, you still want to put jack stands underneath just for safety. And of course I have my engine hoist here, and instead of trying to build a whole new piece of equipment, I decided to incorporate something into something I already had. So I have the chains hooked around the cast iron portion of the axle, and that's pretty important because I still want to be able to move the wheels back and forth. Okay, so I have the front of the tractor supported by jack stands, and this couple bars welded together. This is actually used for another piece of equipment that I used to use to jack up the front of tractors with just a regular motorcycle jack. I'm hoping to incorporate this into this lift eventually. So here's those gears that we're looking to replace. They actually don't look that bad, especially this bigger gear up here. This has a lot of slop in there. Right here, let me get to where you can. This has a lot of slop in it, so I'm wondering if this plate here is bad. Usually these get ground down really bad, but this plate's pretty rusted, so I'm going to go ahead and get this apart and dig into this and see if maybe this gear is a little worn. Maybe we'll replace this gear, but we'll definitely need to do something about this plate. I've been working at this a few minutes, and everything seems pretty rusted up on that plate. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this plate off. These bolts seem pretty rusted too, so this might be wishful thinking getting these out of here. If anything, I'll be cutting them off. Yeah, right. Serious with a small breaker bar, and I think we're going to strip it. Okay, let's try the other side. Okay, we got 3 out of 4 loosened up. Okay, we're going to get a little bit more aggressive with this bolt. I'm going to heat up around it. I'm going to heat up around the bolt. I don't want to heat the bolt itself. I want the metal around the bolt to expand. So I'm going to work on this little frame and a little bit of this piece here. And if this doesn't get hot enough, I'll just go get out the cutting torch. Okay, so I've tried to be a little bit reasonable with this bolt. There are some wires and stuff back here, so I don't want to get this too hot. I was just hoping maybe we could do something to break this loose. It's getting cut off. So the head of the bolt is cut off. I'm going to go ahead and drill that out until this plate falls down. Okay, the bolts are out. I'm gonna go ahead and get this off and it should fall out. Okay, so I took that little sprocket off the end of that drive shaft and everything's pretty rusted up in here. This is gonna need some new nuts on it, and that bushing is definitely damaged. And I'm gonna get these two bolts out of here. Probably not gonna film that because it's probably gonna make me pretty mad. What I decided to do instead is take the nuts off from here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and lift this plate off, and then I can work on the plate off from the tractor. So here's the part off from the tractor. We need to get this nut and this nut off. We're obviously gonna have to replace these. But this part actually doesn't look bad. My friend bought the new piece, so we'll go ahead and put it on. It's actually not in bad shape. I'm gonna go ahead and clean it up, and I'll repaint it, and we'll go ahead and put it back on the tractor. So it's kind of tough to get the grinder in there to cut those bolts off, so we're going to go ahead and use the electric wrench instead. Okay, the bolts are out. Really no damage to the plate. Just got to clean off some of this slag here and get into these big loose pieces, and then I'll just wire brush it down, and I have a paint that's a rust converter that I'll go ahead and throw on there. Go ahead and paint this with a Rust-Oleum rust reformer. I got all the loose metal off. I'll go ahead and throw a coat of this on, and then we'll put a finish coat on. Okay, it's day 2 of the tractor repair. I got a few of the bolts that I needed, and I removed the battery, and this piece, there's a bolt right here that you'll take out, and you'll remove this bracket. And inside you'll be able to access that upper bushing. So we'll go ahead and replace that upper bushing as well. So in the beginning of the video, I said that the sprockets usually wear out, and that is true most of the time. It looks like in this instance what happened is this got so rusty back here that it actually rusted in behind the bushing and caused the bushing to actually wedge onto the steering drive. And I'll show you on this. There's these ears that hold these bushings in place right here, and it looks like what happened is that rust actually rusted inside. It made this too tight for the steering rod to turn, and so it looks like they actually broke those ears off, and that's why it wasn't turning properly. So we'll go ahead and clean up this drive shaft really well, and maybe put a lubricant on it, and then we'll go ahead and put these bushings in and start putting everything back together, and that should definitely fix the problem. Okay, so I have the steering shaft cleaned up. I got most of that rust off. Go ahead and put the bushing back down here in the bottom where it's supposed to go. And we'll put the steering shaft back in. And that'll take care of that. Okay, I have my plate reassembled here. I have my bushing in place, and these are not OEM bolts, but the little bushing here and the little wash underneath it is the actual OEM part. These two bolts here are just aftermarket ones that are going to work for as long as he's going to have the tractor. This bolt gets tightened up pretty tight because that bushing is going to allow it to slide back and forth. This one here has a lock washer. I put a lock washer on the back, and so it's enough to guide it and let it slide back and forth, but it's not enough to hold it tight so this won't move. Okay, let's go ahead and get it on the tractor. Okay, this goes face down. These hook into the bracket here. Okay, and then you're going to use a 15mm wrench to go on the back to hold this in place. And these are going to be pretty tight. Okay, so I have the small sprocket on there and it's secured. I wouldn't get that too tight. I just kind of snugged it up a little bit. Good news is tires do turn. I got the battery back in place and it looks like we're ready to set this thing down. Okay, the steering's fixed, so this completes another project on Brettly Built. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.